That's
because
absolutely, you're quite right.
I know in religious thought, my academic discipline, in religious thought, this confusion, well, the weight of it.
I know.
You feel
A prayer.
and as soon as you begin to make a comment of any kind about it, that is simply raising the question. The extreme rigidity and nervousness that occurs
Quite.
is dramatic. Yes, yes.
You see, sir, so I'm asking, meditation covers the whole field of living, not one segment of it. Therefore, living a life without control, without the action of will, decision, direction, achievement. Is that possible? If it is not possible, it's not meditation. Therefore, life becomes superficial, meaningless, and to escape from that meaningless life, we chase all the gurus, they entertain religious entertainments, circuses, you follow all the practice of it has no meaning. Yeah?
You know, well, of course you do. It's a rhetorical question.
You know.
In the classical tradition, we have a definition of will. We say that it's desire made reasonable. Desire made reasonable. Now, of course, we've long since lost the idea of what the ancients meant against their contemplative background by the word reason. We think it means calculation. But of course, that's not what the classical tradition means when it says reasonable. It points rather to that order which isn't defined. And it occurs to me that if we understood that statement correctly, we'd be saying will is the focus of desire without my focusing self-consciously.
Yes, that's right. And watching desire to flower,
yes,
and therefore watching the will in operation and let it flower, and as it flowers, as you are watching it dies, it withers away.
yes.
After all, you allow, it's like a flower. You allow it to bloom, and it withers.
It comes to be and passes away in its own
Therefore,
time.
if you are choicelessly aware of this movement of desire, control, will, focusing that will in action, and so on, so on, so on. Let it, watch it. And as you watch it, you will see how it loses its vitality. So there is no control. So from that arises the next question, which is, direction means space. Right?
Yes, of course.
It's very interesting.
It is. It is.
What is space? Space which thought has created is one thing. Space that exists in heaven, in our, what is it? In the universe, space. There must be space for a mountain to exist. There must be space for a tree to grow. There must be space for a flower to bloom. So, what is space? And have we space? Or are we all so limited physically to living in a little apartment, little houses, no space at all, outwardly, and therefore, having no space, we become more and more violent.
Yes.
I don't know if you have watched of an evening when all the swallows are lined up on a bar.
Oh, yes.
And how exact spaces they have in between. You follow, sir? Have you? It's
yes,
marvelous.
It's marvelous, yes.
To see this space. And space is necessary. And we have no space physically, more and more population and all the rest of it. And therefore more and more violence, more and more living together in a small flat, 1,000 people, crowded, breathing the same air, thinking the same thing, seeing the same television, reading the same book, going to the same church, believing the same thing. You follow?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The same sorrow, the same anxiety, the same fears. My country, all that. So, mind and so the brain has very little space. And space is necessary. Otherwise, I stifle. So, can the mind have space? And there will be no space if there is a direction.
Clearly, yes.
You see, sir?
Of course. Yes, I do.
Huh?
Yes.
There is no space if direction means time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So can the... And when the mind is occupied with family, with business, with God, with drink, with sex, with experience, occupied, filled, there's no space.
That's right. Exactly.
So, when knowledge occupies the whole field of thought, of the mind as thought, there is no space. And thought creates space around itself. As the me enclosed and you enclosed. We and they. Mm-hmm. So, the self, the me, which is the very essence of thought, has its own little space.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And to move out of that space is terror, is fear, is anxiety. Because I'm only used to that little space.
Yes, exactly. That brings us back to the earlier conversation we had when we touched the point of terror.
Yes, that's right.
Amazing.
The not being, and the being is in the little space which thought has created.
Mm-hmm.
So thought can never give space.
Of course not.
So, meditation is the freeing of the mind, of its content as consciousness, which creates its own little space.
Mm-hmm.
You follow, sir?
Yes, I do.
Huh? So, from that space, is that possible? Because I'm occupied with my wife, my children, my responsibilities. I care for the tree, I care for the cat, I care for this and that. And I'm occupied.
This throws a marvelous light on that saying of Jesus, which people have pondered and wondered about and thought is very strange. Foxes have holes and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man hath not where to lay his head. That he doesn't, man as such, who grasps himself, understands, is not inventing a space for himself. It fits perfectly. It fits perfectly. That's marvelous.
I don't know what...
No, I understand, but I was thinking in the context of the whole discourse. It just flashed over me. And our conversations have been such a revelation to me with respect to the literatures that I've soaked myself in for so many years. And it's a demonstration to me of what you've